Tonight, I keep thinking about this strange rule the universe seems to have. Every food chain ends with something that thinks it's untouchable. Apex predator, top of the ladder. Nothing hunts the hunter. Untech, or so it tells itself. It's a strange thought, isn't it? Because you and I both know that top of the ladder is really just a story a species tells to feel less small in a cold, indifferent galaxy. I've always been fascinated by that gap between reputation and reality, between the monster you've heard about and the very real thing that can bleed and panic and make mistakes. So imagine this with me. Somewhere out there, there's a roaming alliance of hunters so feared that whole civilizations refuse to even say their name. Governments erase reports, stations vanish, colonies go silent, and everyone quietly agrees on one thing. If they arrive, you run, you hide, or you die. Now flip the angle. What happens the first time the prey decides not to play along? The first time a small, dusty colony looks up at those legendary ships and thinks, you know what? No, you're just another animal with sharp teeth. It really makes you wonder what breaks first, the body or the myth. Let your day fade to the edges of your mind, because in this story, hunters with centuries of terror behind them are about to meet a quiet desert world called Reyes. 3, and a man named Captain Mateo Reyes, who has been waiting his whole life for a second chance not to run. Picture a dark ocean made of stars. Somewhere in that ocean, a ship dies. Not in a flash of color, not in a loud battle. It just goes silent. Lights go out, signals stop. A whole species holds its breath, waiting to hear what happened. Nothing comes back. A few months later, a station vanishes near a red dwarf star. Then a bright city, floating in the rings of a gas giant, is found empty. Hulls are torn open, air is gone, no bodies, no survivors, just marks on metal that say the same thing in a style every species learns to fear. You were hunted, you were prey. Across the Milky Way, in thousands of languages, people learn the same story. There is a roaming coalition of hunters that moves from system to system. They do not bargain. They do not ask for tribute. They only arrive, kill, and leave trophies. No one talks about them in public, but everyone knows the name. Predators. Now move forward in time to the year 2487. Humanity has lifted itself from a single blue planet and spread across the galaxy. There are gardens under alien suns, mining towns on lonely moons, trade stations that never sleep. People drink coffee in low gravity and send messages at light speed. The old stories of monsters in the dark feel childish. Until somewhere on a quiet desert colony under a pale orange sky, strange ships enter orbit. They are not here to trade. They expect to find fear. This time they do not, because this time humans have learned something simple and very dangerous for hunters. Even a legend can bleed. And when prey refuses to bow, the whole game starts to change. In the bright halls of the Galactic Council, high above a blue-white world, life looks calm. Tall glass windows show slow traffic of ships drifting past, lit by soft station lights. Inside, delegates from 100 species talk about tariffs and food safety and art. Translators hum in the background. Translators hum in the background. Translators hum on. Robots roll by with trays of tea and nutrient gels. There are rules here. No weapons, no war talk, no sensational panic topics, as the Council guidebook says. The predators are not on any schedule, not in any public file. Their name is missing on purpose. If a junior clerk brings up a lost colony with strange hull damage, a senior official smiles a tired smile and says, "Pirates," or "equipment failure, please adjust your report." If a young trader like Velasorn, thin and gold-eyed, arrives shaking after seeing a dead station, staff led her to a quiet room and tell her to rest. They pay her well and ask her not to spread rumors. In private, different worlds have old sayings among the river builders of Talcash. Do not splash the dark water. It may look back among the gas giant drifters of Yao. Do not feed fear a name, or it will find you. On Earth, there is a simpler phrase for it. Don't poke the bear in the Council's main chamber. A young human diplomat once tried to say what many were thinking. We need to talk about the hunting fleets, she said. The pattern is clear. Whole systems go dark. This is coordinated. We can model her mentor's hand tightened on her arm under the table. She stopped. Around the hall, some faces turned away. Others stared down at data pads as if they had not heard. Later, in a private corridor, the mentor scolded her gently. "You cannot say that word up here," he said. "Why?" she asked. "If there is danger, shouldn't we plan? Because fear is their real weapon," he answered. Not claws, not guns, fear, reputation. If the Council makes them an official topic, if we put their name into law, into votes, into budgets, we lift their story. We spread it for them. We become their messengers. "So we pretend?" she asked. "We manage," he said. "We protect trade. We keep people calm. We trust that most systems are too small, too out of the way, to draw attention." He did not say who would pay the price for that calm. Far from the Council, on a little desert world called Reyes. 3. Life went on without those hushed talks. Reyes. 3 was not special. It did not have rare metals or old ruins. It was a dry, warm planet with soft red sand and long, flat mesas, like sleeping giants. Thin blue-green plants grew in lines where underground pipes fed them. People came here to start small farms, to mine light metals, to raise kids under wide skies. They named it after Captain Mateo Reyes, great-grandfather, who had been part of the first survey team. The family joke was that if you could survive 5 summers on Reyes, 3 without going crazy from the wind, you could survive anywhere. Mateo stood on a metal platform outside the main dome, looking over the colony as the twin suns sank low. Thin dust swirled up in the distance, painting faint spirals in the fading light. Behind him, the dome glowed softly. Inside it, people cooked, argued, laughed, and watched shows from 100 years ago. The colony was small, a central living dome, 4 long greenhouses branching out like pale fingers, a power station with squat fusion towers, a spaceport pad marked by landing lights sunk deep into the hard pan, a few scattered outbuildings and sensor masts dotted the plain. It looked fragile against the endless sand. But to Mateo, it felt steady. He knew every bolt in the support beams, every weakness in the outer shell, every kid who liked to sneak out past curfew. He had come here for a kind of quiet redemption. Years before, in a different system, he had been a junior officer on a station that failed. Pirates, the report said. Systems gone in minutes. He had survived, but hundreds had not. At night, he still saw vents on fire, corridors filling with smoke, alarms that came too late. He had promised himself there would not be a second failure on his watch. Tapping his wrist display. Now tapping his wrist display, a calm voice answered in his ear. All life support nominal, Captain. Outer sensors clear. No debris, no ships. The voice belonged to the colony AI, nicknamed Sage by the kids. Its core sat deep under the main dome, in a cool room filled with pale lights and quiet fans. But through speakers and implants, Sage felt like a person wandering everywhere. Anything unusual in the last 6 hours? Mateo asked. Wind speed increased by 3%, Sage said. 2 children attempted to leave the dome without suits. Both turned back after your brother-in-law scolded them. So, normal, Mateo said, and let his shoulders relax. He liked nights here. The twin suns would drop, and the sky would go from orange to deep purple to black. Stars would pop out, sharp and dense. The Milky Way's band would pour from horizon to horizon. On clear nights, he could see the faint glint of distant traffic along the main trade lane, like silver dust near the edge of sight. That trade lane was comfort. It meant contact, supplies, messages from Earth. It also meant that somewhere up there the wider galaxy moved along, busy and safe. Inside the dome, life was simple. Drills ran twice a month. Kids learned how to seal a breach, how to move in low gravity, how to read an emergency map. Grown-ups took shifts in the greenhouses or the mining rigs. In the evenings, people met in the communal hall for games or movies. Teenagers snuck away to stare at stars and talk about real stations on the big routes. Sometimes when shipments came in from the inner worlds, the older folks would talk quietly in the corners about things they had heard. A Talcash caravan lost contact last cycle, someone would say. In council space? Another would ask, frowning. Near it, at least. They say the hulls looked like something hunted them. But, rumors. Then they would fall silent. Someone would turn the music up. No one would say the name. Kids would see the adults' faces change and feel a thin, cold line in their bellies without knowing why. Mateo heard those talks. he filed the information away, careful and calm. In his private log, he had a folder marked anomalies. There were more entries than he liked. Sage had files, too. It watched traffic data, distress calls, strange missing signals. It built models. It compared shapes of damage when records leaked. It had, deep in its core, a quiet tag for those events. Unclassified adverse actors. Likely coalition. It did not speak that label out loud. It had learned, even through data, that some subjects raised human stress without helping them act better. So it waited and watched. Then, on a cool desert night with both moons, high and small insects making soft clicks against the dome, the pattern changed. At 2:13 local time, Sage noticed a faint distortion at the edge of the system. Space itself seemed to sag for a moment, then snap back. FTL arrival signatures. Traffic? Mateo asked, woken by the gentle buzz on his implant. Sage did not wake him for regular cargo runs. It knew his sleep patterns, his stress levels, the colony's schedule. Tonight it made an exception. Unidentified ships at outer orbit, Sage said. Number 6, configuration, unknown. No transponder codes, no radio greeting. Mateo sat up, heart already hitting his ribs. Size? He asked. Each mass comparable to a heavy cruiser, Sage said. Hull shapes do not match any known commercial or council-registered design. Approaching on direct vector. Estimated time to orbit, 2 hours, 17 minutes. Mateo's mind flashed through options. Pirates, smugglers, a lost fleet, or that other, quiet category. Any response to hails? He asked. I have sent 3 standard greetings on trade and emergency bands. Sage said. No response. Wake everyone, Mateo said. Full drill. No exceptions. And send a packet to Earth and the nearest patrol station. Mark it high priority. Acknowledged, Sage said. In the dome, lights shifted from soft night blue to bright white. A tone rang through the corridors, 3 sharp notes that cut through dreams. Soft, colony alert. Sage's voice said, calm and clear. This is not a drill. All residents report to shelters. All defense staff to stations. Ooh, people stumbled from bunks, pulling on jumpsuits, grabbing children. Old habits kicked in. Every month of training took shape in seconds. Doors sealed. Safety officers checked names against lists. On the screen, the symbols drew closer. As they approached, Sage's sensors sharpened. Radar outlined sharp, angled hulls, built for both speed and strength. Thermal scans showed tight, disciplined power use. No waste heat. No bright engine flares. These ships moved like animals that knew how to stalk. Zoom, Mateo said. The view shifted now. He could see a dark hull, long and lean, with jagged plates. Like frozen waves, marks pierced the surface. Symbols burned in silver. The ship looked less like a machine and more like a flying spear, built to strike and vanish. "Do they match the anomalous damage reports?" he asked, voice tight. "Pattern similarity, 89%, Sage said. "Probability this is the same coalition that attacked prior lost systems. Very high." It did not use the name. It did not need to. Mateo felt the word rise in his chest anyway, cold and sharp. Predators. The word tasted like metal. He stood up and started pulling on his formal command jacket, not because he needed the rank marks, but because his people would see him on screens. They needed to see a captain, not a man in a sleep shirt. "Open the main channel," he said. "Planet-wide." Sage did. "All Reyes." 3 residents, Mateo said, trying to keep his voice level and slow. "This is Captain Reyes. Unknown warships are entering orbit. We have trained for this. Go to your assigned shelters. Stay calm. Listen to Sage and your sector leaders. We are not helpless. Repeat, we are not helpless." He cut the feed, took a breath, then turned back to the tactical display. "How many defense drones online?" he asked. 12 heavy interceptors, 50 light. Surface rail batteries, 1 through 4 are charged. Orbital mines are armed. 3 was not a fortress, but it was not naked either. Frontier law required basic defenses. Most colonies never used them. They were like fire alarms in old houses, tested once a year, then ignored. "Launch interceptors," Mateo said. "Put them in a wide shell. No one fires without my order. We need to see how they move first." He thought of the old station, the one that fell. They had fired too soon then, shown their positions. Wasted shots. This time, he wanted data. In silent space above the desert world, small black darts slid out of hidden bays and fanned into a loose sphere. Their onboard AIs linked with Sage, forming a shared picture of the incoming ships. The predators arrived without signals, without flags, without anything that looked like an attempt to talk. They took up a high orbit, angled for clear lines of fire, their hulls unfolded like blades. Inside the lead ship, High Hunter Grax watched the blue curve of Reyes, 3 rise on his main display. Grax's species had thick slate gray skin and forward-set eyes protected by bony ridges. His body was powerful and compact, built for short, intense bursts of action. He wore armor that carried marks from past hunts, each line and scar a story. To him, the world below was not a home, it was terrain. It was context for the hunt. "This colony is small," said a junior hunter behind him. "Barely a city. Little challenge." Graxig's lip curled, showing blunt, heavy teeth. "Size is not the measure," he said. "Pattern is. This region has been quiet. These humans are new to deep space. They have heard the stories. They will do as others did, panic, plead, run. Our young crews need easy marks between grand hunts." He leaned forward, claws tapping the arm of his chair. "Signal them." He said, no words, no demands, just a tight beam broadcast on an old, shared frequency. a sequence of harsh sounds and static that dozens of species had learned to fear. On Reyes. 3. Sage received it. Mateo heard it through the speakers in the command room. The sound made his skin crawl. It was not language he knew, yet his body reacted. Heart rate jumping, muscles tensing. "What is that?" a junior tech asked, hands shaking at their console. Sage's voice held steady. "Signal matches patterns from other lost colonies. Final transmissions. It appears to serve as an announcement of intent." Mateo felt the people in the room look at him. The words sat in their minds like a lead weight. Predators, somewhere in the shelter levels. Kids clung to parents. Old stories rushed back without details. Just shapes and fear. This could have been the moment when Reyes 3 broke, when people began to scream and demand evacuation that was not possible. When order fell apart and the hunt went as expected. But these were humans in the late 25th century. They had seen wars before. They had grown up with history lessons about asymmetric fighters, resistance movements, clever tricks. They had built games and simulations about winning when outgunned. And Mateo Reyes, who had once watched a station die, had built his drills for the day when the worst legend in the galaxy turned out to be real. He took a breath and spoke again on the main channel. "You all heard that signal," he said. "You know what it probably means. I will not lie to you. These are not pirates. They are the hunters some of you have heard about in side talks and late-night stories." He paused. The words felt like stepping over a line, but there was no going back now. They came here expecting what they always get: panic, surrender, easy trophies. We will not give them that. We do not kneel to myths. In the shelters, hundreds of eyes turned to the screens. A child in a blue blanket watched his face and saw something more than fear. Saw calculation. "In a few minutes, they will likely strike at our defenses," Mateo said. "We will lose ships. We may lose power in areas, but listen to this and remember it. We can hurt them. Every second we hold makes a record. Every drone that lands a shot gives us data. That data will reach Earth. Whether I live or die does not matter. Whether this colony stands in this form does not matter. What matters is this: their legend breaks here." His voice steadied as he spoke. The sentence surprised even him. It felt true in a way that made his spine straighten. "Their legend breaks here," he repeated. "Stay down. Stay ordered. Follow, Sage. We are not just prey. We are the first teeth they meet." He cut the channel and looked at the tactical map. "Sage, record everything," he said. "Every movement, every heat, flare, every shot. Compress and send bursts to Earth and any listening post. Use narrow beams, skip patterns, anything to dodge jamming." "I am already doing so," Sage said. Outside, the hunt began. The predator ships moved with clean, deadly skill. They tested the defense drones with light shots, watching how the little machines dodged and grouped. Then they adjusted. Their next volley cut through a third of the sphere in seconds. Tiny blossoms of light marked drones going dark. Sage registered each loss. Cool and clear, it adjusted paths, sent others into new angles, probed for gaps. It treated the fight less like a battle to win and more like a scan to run. Surface rail batteries. Fire in sequence, Mateo ordered. On the planet, hidden turrets rose from the sand, long barrels glinting under starlight. They shot slugs the size of small cars at a fraction of light speed. There was no flash, just a deep, dull roar and a line of white-hot air. The first shots missed. The predators dodged, shifting orbits with short, brutal burns. They were used to ground guns. They were not careless, but the fourth volley caught an outer predator ship on the edge of its field. Sensors had mapped its dodge curve. Sage had guessed the adjustment. A slug hit the hull at a nasty angle, tearing a hole across 3 decks. Atmosphere burst out in a white plume. For a second, the ship's lights flickered on that ship. For the first time in decades, a Predator crew felt what it was to stand on a deck that shook. Grax saw the hit on his display. His eyes narrowed. "They have teeth," said his junior, surprised. Grax's ridges flexed in something like a smile. "Good. It means their fear will taste sharper." He sent new commands. The hunt shifted. Now they were not just culling, they were testing a strange animal. On the ground, Mateo watched the damage log for his defenses climb. Drones gone. Turrets overheated. A power line cut. A greenhouse dome cracked. Seal greenhouse C. Sage said, "Atmosphere leak contained. No casualties." "Keep sending packets," Mateo said, "even if it's just fragments. Even if it's one frame of video at a time." "Understood," Sage said. Hours passed like this. Hit, answer, adjustment. The Predators stayed in high orbit, tearing away ships and guns, but they did not rush to land. They liked to weaken a place, to taste its fear slowly. But on Reyes 3, fear did not turn to begging. People stuck to drills. When power failed in one level, kids passed out glow sticks and sang old songs to keep each other calm. A medic in a side ward recorded everything on a handheld cam. Damage, dust, even the sound of the strange enemy signal, because she knew, somehow, that someone might study it later. Far across the galaxy, tiny compressed bursts shot out at tight angles. Most died in jamming fields or drifted into empty space. A few slipped through, bouncing from relay to relay, crawling toward human space. As the local dawn slid over the desert, the last defense drone burned up in the sky. Its wreck a brief streak above the horizon. Sage brought up a new option. "They will land soon," it said. "Odds of full colony survival are dropping. We can cling to standard defense and be wiped, or we can change tactics." "Say it," Mateo said. "We open outer doors," Sage said. "We let them come in. We play helpless. Meanwhile, We route remaining power to internal traps, overloaded conduits, sealed bulkheads, directed air bursts. We do not win, but we may take a few with us, and we may make them jump at shadows. Mateo thought of it in silence for 3 heartbeats. "Do it," he said. "Make this place a maze. Record everything." The Predator landing craft came down like black knives, cutting bright lines through the sky. They expected the usual broken defenses, scattered screams, easy trophies on their ship cameras. Instead, when they breached the first dome, they met empty, trapped corridors and sealed blast doors that slammed down behind them at strange times. Power flared, then died, then came back in a different hall. Air vents blasted dust to blind them. Floors gave way in controlled drops. Not enough to kill, just enough to disorient. Predator helmets recorded it all. Their hearts beat a little faster. Their muscles tensed. They began to feel watched, not by a god or a ghost, but by an enemy mind that refused to just die. In the end, Reyes, 3 did fall. The main dome cracked. Fire licked out into the desert. Structures crumpled. Mateo disappeared in a collapsing corridor after forcing a young tech into a safer tunnel. Sage's core went dark when a Predator demolition charge hit the right spot, but not before the AI sent its last tightest beam through a tiny gap in the jamming field. A sliver of pattern, a log of their movements, shots of Predator hulls and weapons, audio of that strange signal, notes on how they reacted to surprise, a seed racing toward Earth. Above the smoking planet, Predator ships pulled away, hulls scarred in places they had not planned. Grax stood at his display, eyes on the damage report. "Losses?" he asked. 2 landing teams dead, 3 ships breached. "No full losses," his officer said. "But more resistance than model predicted." Grax stared at the planet's glowing cracks. "They did not break as expected," he said. His voice held interest, not anger. "Remember this, Mark. Humans. They are new prey. They may be sport." He turned to his crew. Raising his head, "Send the footage to the arenas," he said. "Let our young watch. Let them hunger." The hunt moved on. Behind it, a burned desert world cooled under twin suns, and far away, deep under the Rockies on old Earth, a young scientist named Dr. Hannah Park would soon open a file marked with strange symbols in the tag. Unclassified adverse actors, likely coalition Reyes. 3 incident. When she hit play, the legend would start to crack. The Cheyenne Mountain complex sat under solid rock, hidden like a seed in ancient stone. Outside, the Rockies wore snow on their peaks, and pine trees waved in clean wind. Tourists hiked, took pictures, and bought hot chocolate at small cabins. Most had no idea that deep below their boots, thick doors and long tunnels led to one of Earth's oldest and most trusted defense centers. Inside, the air was cool and dry. Lights stayed at a soft, steady level that never hurt eyes. And screens lined the main analysis room, each one filled with lines of numbers, maps of star systems, and slow graphs that counted things most people never thought about. Dr. 16's most people never thought about. Hannah Park sat at her station with a mug of tea and a half-finished protein bar. Her dark hair was tied back in a quick knot. A faded hoodie with an old university logo hung loose over her standard-issue jumpsuit. She had been awake for 19 hours. Her job sounded simple when she explained it at family gatherings. I look at strange things in space and see if they're a problem. In practice, that meant watching for patterns in sensor noise, in lost ships, in broken signals. It meant telling the difference between a gas flare and a stealth burn, between real danger and faulty gear. Tonight, a new alert had pushed itself to the top of her list. Source: Frontier Colony Reyes, Sri. The label read, "Status lost. Data packet corrupted. High value." She tapped it open. At first it was just static and broken frames, flashes of desert, a blurred man's face in a command jacket, glimpses of black hull against stars. The audio was messy, full of pops and gaps. But the AI tools in Cheyenne were good. They filled missing parts, cleaned noise, built models. On the main wall, a clearer set of images began to form. "Feed coming through now," said a voice from the next console over. It belonged to Mia, Hannah's colleague, who handled signal cleaning. "I've patched the worst holes, but it's still rough." "Rough is fine," Hannah said. Her voice was quiet, but her eyes were sharp. "Just don't guess too much. I want the raw edges." The first solid clip showed a desert sky, twin moons. Then, a streak of light, a landing craft. The angle shifted to an internal view, a corridor shaking, lights flickering. Hannah leaned forward. "Can you enhance the hull markings?" she asked. Mia zoomed in on a frozen frame, a dark ship above the atmosphere, marked with jagged silver lines. Cheyenne pattern matching software went to work, cross-checking millions of stored images from trade networks, pirate databases, naval records, and old council logs. "No match," the system said at last. "Design unknown, symbols unknown, cross-similarity with prior anomaly cases high." Another clip started. A man's voice, calm, deep, with a slight desert accent. "Listen to this and remember it. We can hurt them. Every second we hold makes a record. Every drone that lands a shot gives us data." The screen showed his face now, dust on his skin, lines around his eyes, ID tags on the side. Sopped. Cap. Mateo Reyes. Hannah felt something heavy in her chest. He must have known, she thought. He knew this might be the last time he spoke to his people, yet his focus was on data. On her, in a way, on whoever would see this after. The next clip made the room go silent. Mia played the strange signal the colony had received. a harsh grinding sequence of sounds. As it rolled over the speakers, several staff in the back shifted in their chairs. A few winced. Hannah's skin prickled. The sound felt like being watched. "Psych test?" she asked. A small panel on her console showed quick readings. Heart rates up, skin conductance up, pupils slightly wider, even with warning. "The signal causes stress," Mia said. "No semantic content we can decode yet, but it does something. It's a brand," Hannah said softly, "an audio logo for terror. People out there know this sound, even if they pretend not to." She thought of council delegates turning away from certain topics, of hushed reports tagged as equipment failure when hull patterns said something else. Another file preview blinked for attention. Model comparison ready. She opened it. On the left side of the screen, Cheyenne showed a layered image of hull damage from several pirate incidents over the last 50 years. Claw-like gouges, heat-scoring patterns, entry points. On the right, damage from Reyes 3's last transmissions. The match was close. Same attackers, Hannah said. Same weapons. Same tactics, decades apart. Mia let out a low breath. "So the rumors are true." Hannah nodded. "There is a hunting coalition out there, moving between systems. Not here, not on the main lanes. Out where people think no one will notice. If they vanish," she pulled up a galaxy map and marked each anomaly case. A ring of red dots appeared in the outer arms. 3 glowed in the middle of a cluster. "They choose places near trade, but not too near patrols," she said. "Enough traffic, that word spreads. Not enough that help arrives in time. They want their story told, but they don't want a real fight." Mia frowned. "What story?" Hannah tapped the screen where the strange signal was represented as a jagged line. "This one. The story that they cannot be stopped. It's their main weapon." A soft tone sounded behind them. A side door opened, and a new figure stepped in. Admiral Jonathan Kincaid was in his 60s, tall, with close-cropped gray hair and calm gray eyes. Years of space service had left small lines at the corners of his mouth, the lines of someone who had chosen many times to hold steady under pressure. He did not move like a hero. He moved like an engineer checking a machine. "Dr. Park," he said. "You called for command review?" Hannah stood up. Hannah stood up. Hannah stood up. Hannah stood up. "I think we have confirmation on the long-range predator case." He came closer and watched as Mia replayed the key clips. The strange hulls, the signal, the rail slug, tearing through dark armor, the hunted landing team struggling in trapped corridors. Kincaid watched without comment. He did not flinch at the worst parts. When the last frame froze on a Predator crew thrown off their feet by an unexpected blast of air from a helpless corridor. He spoke. "So," he said quietly, "they can bleed." "Yes, sir," Hannah said. "Ray 3 hit them. It did not save the colony, but it did damage their ships, kill ground teams, disrupt their rhythm. and they recorded it all. They carry their hunts home as trophies, which means she brought up a set of notes she had made during the night. Simple bullet points. They care about story, she said. They want fear to spread. They want recordings to show back home. That's how they hold their coalition together. They are not just fighting with guns, they are fighting with reputation. Kincaid nodded slowly. Fear as logistics, he said. Fear as fuel. Exactly, Hannah said. If the galaxy believes they are unstoppable, then most worlds won't resist. They won't plan. They won't prepare traps. That keeps real costs low for the hunters. But if some worlds fight back in clever ways, if video of their failures spreads instead, Mia joined in. Their myth cracks, she said. Recruits grow unsure. Some allies start to think, maybe we don't have to live like this. Maybe they're not gods. Sir, we can't match them ship for ship yet. We don't know their full range or numbers. A direct war would be suicide. But we don't have to do that. We can aim at their story. We can learn from Reyes. 3 and design responses that use their own pride against them. Kincaid studied her face for a long moment. You understand what you're suggesting? He asked. Yes, sir, she said. In suggesting we stop pretending they're a ghost, we accept that they exist. And then we do what humans have always done when a predator appears. And what is that? He asked. We study it, she said. We map its habits. We set traps not for the animal, but for the behavior. We make being a hunter costly and confusing. He looked back to the screen where Captain Reyes' last speech text scrolled, auto-transcribed. Their legend breaks here. Kincaid felt an old anger stir inside him. The kind he usually kept locked away. He thought of lost stations, of reports with gaps, of the Council's gentle words about avoiding panic. I will not push Earth into a grand war on a rumor, he said slowly. I have spent my life keeping this planet safe, not offering it up. But this is no rumor anymore. This is fact, and hiding from fact never saved anyone. He turned to Hannah. Draft me a plan, he said. Not for glory, not for revenge, for survival. Hannah's eyes lit, not with excitement, but with sharp focus. Yes, Admiral, she said. They moved to a side room, walls already set up with hollow boards and tactile screens. Hannah pulled up basic outlines of human colonies, trade routes, patrol ranges. Kincaid added layers, fleet availability, supply lines, political limits. We start with language, Hannah said. We need clear terms, not scary names, not legends. Just honest labels. She typed, Predator Coalition, Roaming Hunter Alliance, targeting frontier systems. Hunt myth, the shared belief that they cannot be stopped, she said as she wrote. We make this a study topic, not a ghost story. Next, she laid out a simple idea. They are stronger than any single colony, she said. They have better ships, more experience. So we don't try to win in a straight fight. We use asymmetric tactics. She wrote the words in big, clear letters. ASYMeth rec responses. Like what? Kincaid asked. She pulled up a model of a simple colony. Dome, power plant, small orbital ring. First idea, bait colonies, she said. We set up places that look soft and valuable, but we keep them lightly populated or even empty with only androids and AIs. Under the surface, we hide traps, sensor nets, hidden rail guns. When the hunters come for an easy hunt, they walk into a planned maze. Kincaid nodded slowly. We take what Reyes 3 did in Crisis and build it on purpose. Exactly, Hannah said. We learned from them that surprise inside a hopeless place rattles the hunters. You saw how their ground teams struggled when air vents and floors behaved strangely. Imagine if we design a whole colony as a mind game from the start. She changed the model. The simple dome became a network of fake corridors, decoy life signs, and hidden kill zones. Second idea, false evacuations, she said. We make it look like a colony is panicking and fleeing early. We let them intercept some people, maybe droids with fake biosignals, to reinforce their image of weak prey. Meanwhile, the real population has moved to hardened shelters or off-world. The hunters waste time and ammo on empty shells. She added another layer. Third, decoy distress calls, she said. We send messages that sound like terrified worlds. We use real recordings from Reyes, 3, and others, altered just enough. We time them to pull predator fleets away from real targets into our prepared ambush corridors. On the wall display, lines appeared, routes through space where mines, stealth ships, and fake signals worked together. Ambush corridors, Kincaid said, routes that look like the easiest path between 2 prey worlds, but are actually kill zones. Yes, Hannah said, placed in regions where we can cut off their retreat routes. Behind them, we place sensor traps that record every change in their formation. We may not destroy them all, but we make each run costly. We push their loss rate up. Over time, the story of easy hunts begins to fray. She stopped, took a breath. And we don't do this alone, she said. That would be stupid. Kincaid gave a small smile. You mean heroic? He said. Heroic and dead. Hannah grinned briefly, then sobered. We have allies, she said. Many of them have lived under this quiet terror far longer than we have. They know pieces of the predator system. Smugglers, traders, secret networks. We need them. Hundreds of light years away, in an orbital port modeled after an ancient city on old Earth, that step was already starting. The port above Erythra Station was shaped like a ring with minarets and domes, patterned after Istanbul. Market stalls lined long corridors full of bright fabrics, spicy steam, and glowing hollow signs. It smelled of metal, oil, and 100 kinds of food. Velasorn moved through the crowd like she belonged in 10 places at once. Her species, the Silari, were thin and quick, with smooth, pale gold skin and large eyes that changed color with mood. Today Vela's eyes were a steady green, the shade she wore when she needed to seem calm. She carried a small case under her arm, filled with data sticks and old-fashioned paper notes. She liked paper. Predators could not hack paper from orbit. For years, Vala's people had made quiet, easy money moving goods between systems that did not trust each other. They had also carried other things: rumors, fears, unspoken warnings. Don't go near the Ring of Kest. A station went dark there last cycle. A listening buoy picked up a strange signal. Felt like claws in your head. Trade route to the outer arm. Profitable, but risky. Each warning came with a look, a pause, a change of subject. No one said the name, but like Hannah, Vela had mapped the patterns. Predators. She had lost a cousin on a drift station that went silent. Her uncle showed her private pictures of hull scars that did not look like any rock. Now, for the first time, she had proof in her hands. Reyes. Free footage copied from a secret council channel by a friend with shaky morals. As she stepped into a quieter side hall, away from the crowded bazaar, she saw her contact. The human traded under the name Tariq. He had dark hair, a quick smile, and a tiny drone on his shoulder that filmed everything. "You look like you stole something important," he said as she approached, eyes all tight. "I did," Vela said calmly. She held up the case. "I stole your future." He blinked, then laughed. "That sounds dramatic, even for you." They moved into a small tea shop in the corner, where privacy shields hummed softly along the walls. The owner poured them dark, sweet tea and pretended not to listen. Vela slid a data stick into the table slot. A small hollow projection rose between them, showing the dark hulls over Reyes. 3. The strange signal. The ground teams hitting hidden traps. Tariq's smile faded. His fingers tightened around his cup. "Is this real?" he asked. "Not some sim from your network?" "Real," Vela said. "Straight from a council archive. I paid more than this station is worth to get it." They watched in silence as Captain Reyes spoke, as Predator crews were thrown off balance, as a rail slug punched through armor. When the last clip faded, Tariq let out a long breath. "They're not invincible," he said. It was not a question. "No," Vela said. Her voice was flat. "Dangerous, yes. Strong, yes. But not spirits, not gods. Just hunters with good tools and a legend." She tapped the table, bringing up a map much like Hannah's, but full of little trade symbols and personal notes. "Look," she said, "these are systems where my network has heard meteor strikes that felt wrong. Here, and here are stations that went dark after someone reported a strange audio signal. Here are worlds that quietly doubled their defenses, but never admitted why." Tariq stared. "It's a web." "Yes," Vela said. "A hunt path. They pass through every few decades, keep everyone scared, then move on. The council covers it up. The big powers look away. They say it's to stop panic. Really, it's to keep trade smooth. They can afford to lose a few fringe worlds. My people cannot. She looked straight at him, Tarek's jaw set. What do you want? Alliance, Vela said simply. Not speeches. Not speeches. Not flags. Quiet work. Humans are new to the big stage. But you are stubborn and clever. You do not like bullies. You have engineers who think sideways. I have a web of traders and smugglers who can move information in small packages where fleets cannot. She brought up a simple symbol, a hunting animal, turning its head as if sensing eyes behind it. We turn their game around, she said. They think they control fear. Fine, we make them feel it. We give them bait worlds that bite, trade convoys that are traps, rumors that scare their recruits. Tariq frowned. You want us to start a war? We barely have a firm seat on the council. No, Vela said. They already started their war centuries ago. I want you to stop pretending you are not in it. He looked down at the empty hollow, then up at her, his drone word softly on his shoulder, recording his face as he made the choice. I know a liaison on Earth, he said slowly. Name's Dr. Swaite. Hannah Park. Good brain, good heart. Works in your Cheyenne Mountain. I can get this data to her and her models to you. Vela's eyes brightened, shifting to a vivid gold. That's a start. He raised a finger. But I need to know what humans get out of this. Really. Not just moral points. Vela smiled, sharp and tired. You get to live in a galaxy where your kids are not trophies, she said, and you get something else. Humans like very much. What's that? He asked. A challenge, she said. The greatest hunters in known space think you are easy prey. They know your name now. That means they are coming sooner or later. Do you want to wait for them to pick the time and place? Or do you want to write the manual on how to make them flinch? Back under the Rockies, Hannah wrote that manual in her own way. She sent Vela's stolen footage through secure channels to Kincaid and a handful of trusted officers. In return, Vela sent quiet reports from worlds too scared to speak in the council hall. Piece by piece, a picture formed. They learned the predators favored certain approach patterns, angles that let them keep escape routes open. They learned their ships liked to travel in threes or sixes, never alone. They learned that they almost never struck systems that had just survived a natural disaster. They preferred clean hunts, not messy ones. That means they avoid chaos they don't control, Hannah said, tracing circles on a star map. If we fake chaos, solar flares, local war, virus outbreaks, they may skip a target. That's another tool. Kincaid watched her fill in idea after idea. Bait colonies, false evacuations, ambush corridors, fake chaos, psychological operations, he listed. She nodded. We don't just hit ships. We hit their minds. He looked at the words she had written. PS Ops. You're suggesting we scare the hunters, he said. We scare the hunters, he said. If we can, she replied. At least we confuse them. We make them look over their shoulders. Hunters that feel watched make mistakes. Kincaid thought of Earth, its blue skies, its orbit lined with stations and gardens, its history of both cruelty and kindness. "I will not turn our species into butchers," he said. "We will not become what they are." Hannah met his eyes. "We don't have to," she said. "Look at our plans. Every trap is triggered only when they choose to hunt. Every ambush corridor lies quiet unless they pick it. We are not attacking their homes. We are saying, if you come to kill, it will not be easy anymore." He gave a small, slow nod. "Defense with teeth," he said. "Exactly," she said. He turned to the wall, where Captain Reyes' last words were printed in plain text. "Their legend breaks here." Kincaid reached out and added a line under it in his own hand. "And we will teach the galaxy how." Above them, satellites moved silently over Earth's clouds. In the halls of the Galactic Council, officials still avoided certain words, but in hidden rooms and quiet ports, a different conversation had begun. On human farms on Mars, in drifting stations near Saturn, in desert domes on far moons, small changes started. Extra drills, new sensors, just-in-case plans. The predators did not feel it yet. They still thought of the galaxy as a field full of easy hearts to stop. They did not know that in little rooms under mountains and in crowded tea shops above foreign suns, prey had started to study their steps, not with panic, but with cold, careful interest. They did not know that the next time they went out to hunt, something in the dark would be waiting, not with claws, but with patience, not with legend, but with strategy. High above Earth, a thin ring of stations caught sunlight and turned it into power, data, and quiet plans. Inside one of those stations, in a secure lab, Dr. Hannah Park stared at a spinning model in the air. It was not a planet or a ship. It was stranger and more important. It was how the predators stayed the predators. Lines glowed in different colors: red for fuel, blue for food and bodies, gold for trophies and recordings, gray for rumor and fear. The lines linked systems across the map like veins. "This is not just a fleet," she said to the room. "This is an engine." Around her sat a small group of humans and aliens. They were not many, maybe a dozen, but each carried knowledge from a different corner of the galaxy. Admiral Kincaid sat near the back, arms crossed, listening. On the far side of the holo, Vela Sorn flickered in as a life-size projection from the Istanbul-style port. Her image shimmered slightly when the station's gravity rings turned, but her voice stayed clear. "We always saw pieces of this," Vela said. "A strange supply contract here, an off-limits zone there, but we never put it together like this before." Humans started asking the right questions. Hannah pointed at a red line that ran between three distant stars. "These are their main fuel nodes," she said. "Dense gas clouds, ice-rich moons, captured supply depots. They can't run those heavy ships on magic. They need matter. That means mining, processing, and moving large amounts of fuel." She tapped a symbol at the center of a red cluster. "Here," she said, The Akyar Cloud. On paper, it's a private industrial zone controlled by a small neutral clan. No one is allowed to map it closely. Any ship that comes too near has a navigation accident. Sound familiar? An older alien at the table with dark folded skin and steady black eyes nodded slowly. My people lost a scout there, he said. The official story was a reactor failure, but in the last burst we received, our captain said he saw shapes moving without transponders. Now I know what he really saw. Predator fuel convoys, Hannah said, protected by silence and fake rules. She turned to the blue lines. She said, predators don't just hunt for fun. Their culture is built around it. They bring back bodies, not just as trophies, but as proof of skill. They also bring back living captives sometimes. Her throat tightened. As she said it, she kept her voice level. There are breeding arenas, Vela added quietly, places where they raise their own young and those of allied species. They train them in closed loops, show them hunt recordings day and night. Teach them that this is normal, that all other life is weak and deserves to be hunted. On the model, a few blue nodes pulsed brighter. The breeding and training centers. We only know the location of 3 for sure, Hannah said, but these 3 are enough to start. Kincaid raised a hand. Explain the gold lines, he said. Hannah smiled without humor. Trophies and recordings, she said. They don't just kill and leave. They catalog. Each major hunt is filmed from many angles. Helmet cams, ship cams, even small drones. Those recordings are then sent back along secure routes to certain worlds. She tapped a large gold node near the center of the map. This region here. Graxic's home territory, we think, she said. A cluster of heavy gravity worlds with thick atmospheres, perfect for their bodies. Full of arenas and trophy halls, they host gatherings after big hunts. Everyone watches the recordings. Young hunters pick idols. Status shifts. Vala's eyes were sharp, and fear spreads, she said. They leak some of those recordings on purpose. To slave markets, to the darknet, to the back rooms of bars on trade stations, so others hear the story. Resist and you will be torn apart on screen. Surrender, and maybe you die faster. It's a loop, Hannah said. Hunts feed trophies. Trophies feed reputation. Reputation makes targets surrender. Surrender makes hunts cheap. Cheap hunts feed more trophies. Around and around, she zoomed the model out, showing how the red, blue, and gold lines wrapped around each other. This is the predator economy, she said. Not just money, but power, attention, and fear. Kincaid studied the model. Why hasn't anyone hit this before? He asked. These fuel nodes, trophy routes, arenas. They're not invincible. Vela gave a bitter chuckle. Because the council tells itself a story too, she said. Their story goes like this. If we pretend hard enough, the predators will stay on the edges and leave our core worlds alone. If we don't make a fuss, the hunters will not see us as a threat. The older alien at the table added, and smaller species like mine tell a different story. If we scream, no one will help us. So we stay quiet, keep our heads down, and hope the wave passes. Hannah nodded. Stories protect the hunters, she said. Not just their stories, our stories. Our excuses. Our fear. That's why we've decided to stop playing by those rules. She tapped a new button. The hollow shifted. Now thin green lines spread across the network. These are our planned hits, she said. Small, sharp, deniable. Not grand battles. Not invasions, knives in the dark. She pointed to a red fuel node far from Grax's home territory. Target Group A, fuel and logistics, she said. We send stealth teams to seed their fuel depots with slow sabotage, microbes that gum up filters, fake parts that fail under stress, timed charges on key pumps. Not enough to advertise an attack. Just enough to make their ships slightly less reliable, a little more likely to break at the worst moment. Kincaid frowned slightly. Won't they trace that back to us? Not if we do it right, Hannah said. We buy faulty parts through cutouts. We spread rumors that some smugglers are selling bad fuel. We make it look like greed and bad luck, not war. Vela smiled thinly. Smugglers already sell bad fuel, she said. We just push it into the right mouths. Laughter flickered around the table, short and tense. Hannah pointed to a blue breeding arena node. Target Group B, culture shocks, she said. We cannot raid these places head-on yet, but we can reach their feeds. Velas people and others can slip in data sticks, hacked drones, fake trophies. Her hands moved as she spoke, shaping the attack like a puzzle. Imagine a young predator watching a hunt recording, she said. He expects to see glorious kills. Instead, halfway through, the footage glitches and shows his heroes slipping in traps, screaming in confusion, dying to weak prey, then cuts, then repeats again and again, short, sharp, hard to erase. That plants doubt. The older alien shook his head in wonder. You want to make their own children question their parents? Yes, Hannah said, not out of cruelty, out of logic. If the next generation sees cracks in the legend early, the whole culture shifts over time. Some will cling harder to the myth. Some will begin to think, maybe this path is not as strong as we were told. Kincaid's voice was slow. And Target Group C, Hannah highlighted a set of gold trophy roots. Rumor work, she said. Psychological operations at the network level. We seed stories among their allies. Stories like humans laid a trap that killed a high hunter's entire team. Or a predator ship ran from a fight with a small colony. Some stories will be true, some slightly bent. The point is not full accuracy. The point is doubt. Vela nodded. We already hear small cracks, she said. There are minor hunter clans who grumble about the big ones taking all the best hunts. There are support species, mechanics, cooks, pilots, who are sick of living on war rations while their masters show off. We aim our rumors at them. Kincaid rubbed his chin, It's all very clever, he said, but want this in time. Draw a bigger response. A high hunter with something to prove. Hannah met his eyes. Yes, she said simply. We are not fooling ourselves. If we hurt their engine, someone like Grax will notice. He will come. That is why part of this plan is not about them at all. She brought up a different model. It showed human space. Earth, Mars, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, the colonies in nearby systems, and the thin arc of frontier worlds. Like Reyes. 3 green dots showed hidden bunkers, backup AIs, extra fuel stores. Yellow lines showed new sensor webs. We build depth, she said. Redundant systems. Underground shelters. Hardened cores. We make sure that when they do come in force, we are not standing on a thin shell like Reyes. We are standing on layered rock. Kincaid nodded, approval clear in his eyes. We will not pick the final battle, he said, but we will shape the terms. Far across the galaxy, inside a grim arena carved into a mountain of black stone, High Hunter Grax watched a recording from Reyes. 3 for the 20th time, the arena was full. Hundreds of hunters sat on stone benches, their armor clinking as they shifted. The air smelled of smoke, blood, and metal. The walls were hung with skins and hard, polished bones from many species. On the main screen, the desert world burned again. Predator landing teams rushed into the colony's corridors. Doors slammed shut behind them. Vents blasted dust. Floors dropped in controlled slides. Each time a Predator soldier stumbled, some in the crowd growled. Each time a human trap killed one outright. A low hiss went through the hall. They fought like cornered beasts, said a hunter next to Grax. This one was younger, his armor still too clean. Surprising, but still ended as prey. Why show this so much? Better to show clean kills. Grax kept his eyes on the screen. Watch closer, he said. Do you see how the place itself fights? Not just the bodies. The doors, the vents, the floors. That is not blind panic. That is design. Thought, a clip replayed. A Predator squad pushing forward, only to have the lights go out, then back on in a different color. All their helmet readings flickered for 3 seconds nearby. In those 3 seconds, 2 died to hidden guns. What of it? The young hunter asked. Tricks. Weak prey tricks. They slow the hunt, nothing more. Grax's jaw tightened. You have been raised on feeds of simple kills, he said. You have not seen what real prey can do when it thinks. Look at our loss report. He pulled up a side display. Numbers glowed. Dead ground teams, injured ship crews, damaged hull sections for a minor outpost, he said quietly. This cost us more than some full campaigns. They had almost nothing, yet they made us pay. If prey like this spreads, what will happen to our young who were promised easy glory? The younger hunter shifted uncomfortably. They will adapt. Some will die first, Grax said. And the story we tell in this hall That we are always the top hunter will sound less solid. That is why we must answer now, before doubt grows teeth. He stood, armor catching the arena firelight. I claim the next grand hunt, he called to the hall. Not on helpless cattle, on these humans, on their home star. A low roar went through the crowd. The idea of a strike at the heart of a new spacefaring species excited them. A senior hunter in dark, scarred armor rose slowly. Earth is far from our lanes, she said. Its defenses are unknown. The council might act if you stir that hive. Grax bared his teeth. The council acts only to keep markets calm, he said. They will issue statements. They will ask for talks, but when our fleets move, who will stand before them? Some half-built human cruisers, a few brave, lost allies. We will crush them, and the galaxy will see the feed. They will remember Reyes 3 as a fluke and Earth as the true lesson. He spread his arms. Agree, and I will lead the largest coalition of our kind ever seen. We will burn a line through human space so bright that no prey species will ever dare set a trap again. In the stands, hunger for status mixed with fear of change. Many nodded. A few stayed silent. High Hunter Grax felt the old thrill rise in him. A perfect hunt, risky enough to be worth telling, clear enough to silence doubts. He did not know that far away, the prey he scorned had already guessed his move. Back at Cheyenne Mountain, Hannah stared at a new set of intercepted messages. They were not from human channels. They had come in through Velis network, snatches of predator internal traffic, half decoded by clever aliens. Phrases repeated: Grand Hunt, Human Core, High Hunter Grax Hans. Hannah set the words next to her own models. It's happening, she said to Kincaid over a secure link. We hit their fuel, their rumors, their arenas just enough to scare them. Now their biggest ego is stepping up to fix the story. Hez gathering fleets. Kincaid's face was calm but tight. How long? He asked. Best guess 18 months to 2 years until a major force can cross the distances, Hannah said. Maybe less if they push their engines hard and burn support ships on the way. Enough time to finish building, Kincaid said. Maybe. They looked at the Earth defense plan again. Hidden gun platforms in lunar orbit. Extra armor on orbital rings. Deep shelters under major cities. New AIs trained not just to track ships, but to manage fear. Keeping civilians informed enough to act, not enough to panic. But we can't just sit and wait. Hannah said, if they feel us pull back, they may rethink. We need them to keep believing we are overconfident animals playing at war. She brought up a new list. Operations in the next year must do 3 things, she said. First, keep nicking their engine so small cracks widen. Second, feed their pride so Grax pushes for a direct strike. Third, grow our alliance quietly. She tapped the first line. Fuel raids, she said. We don't blow up whole depots. Too obvious. We hit convoys. Short, sharp steals. Replace real fuel with doctored fuel. Make them late to some hunts. Make smaller clans. Blame bigger ones for poor planning. Bella's projection sat on the table again, eyes now a focused blue. We already have pilots ready, she said. Fast, dirty ships. We can accidentally cross your ambush corridors with their convoys. Let them taste early what a trapped route feels like. Hannah smiled. Good. She pointed to the second line. Rumor stings, she said. We plant fake boasts in human black channels that we barely noticed, Reyes. 3. That it was just a skirmish to test their nerves. That Earth has many hidden weapons. To a hunter like Grax, that sounds like a challenge. He will want to prove us wrong on camera. Kincaid raised an eyebrow. You want to taunt him? Carefully, Hannah said. Just enough to irritate, not enough to make him rethink the target. Pride is a rope. We can pull on it if we know the knot. The third line glowed. Alliance cells, she said, and not a grand treaty. Groups, circles, ships on each friendly world. We build small units who know the truth and the plan. They get training in traps, in sensor tricks, in how to act like easy prey until it's too late. The older alien from before lifted his chin. My home will be one of these cells, he said. We have hidden under our lakes too long. If we must die, better with teeth shown. Kincaid looked around the room. You all understand, he said quietly, that you are volunteering to stand up against the hunters a little early. They may notice. They may mark your worlds as next after Earth. The alien smiled, a small, sad curve of his strange mouth. They already mark us when it suits them, he said. The difference now is that we will not stand alone. Hannah watched his face and felt a new kind of weight settle on her shoulders. Responsibility not just for humans, but for every life tangled in this plan. That night, when most others in the complex slept, she sat alone in the lab and watched the Predator engine model spin. She thought about Grax in his arena, about young hunters memorizing kills. She thought about Captain Reyes in a collapsing corridor, sending data instead of pleas. She thought about kids on Earth whose biggest fear was an exam or a breakup. Fear, she realized, was not something you could remove from the universe. It moved. It shifted. It could be used to freeze or to act. What are you afraid of? She asked herself softly. She knew the answer. I'm afraid we become like them, she said. So sure we are right that we stop seeing others as full beings. She zoomed in on a small, gray line in the model rumors moving between minor predator allies. That is why every plan we make has to leave a door open, she said out loud, just to hear it. A door for those who want to leave the hunt, for those inside their system who might one day say, enough. She added a tiny green mark in the model near the arenas. O piano safe havens for defectors, captured young, support species. Kincaid later saw the note and did not erase it. Hard to do, he said when they talked, but worth trying. Exactly, Hannah said. We fight the idea that some lives are just trophies. That means we don't start seeing all predators as trophies, either, even when we hate them. Admiral Kincaid took a slow breath. Keep that line in mind when Grak's fleet sits over our heads. He said, "It will be harder then." "I know," she said. Months passed. Small raids went out and came back. Some failed. Some scored tiny wins. A fuel filter ruined. A nervous rumor in a predator mess hall about bad batches. In one daring strike, a joint human-Solari team slipped a hacked drone into a secondary breeding arena. For 3 minutes, during a big viewing, every hunt feed in that hall switched to a loop of a predator squad dying to human traps on Reyes. 3. Then the drone burned out. The recording of the chaos in that hall reached Hannah through Via. She watched young hunters leap to their feet, some snarling, some shocked. She saw a trainer smash a screen with his claws. She saw, in the corner, 2 very young ones freeze, eyes wide, not in awe, but in doubt. Grax heard about the event and felt his anger sharpen into something cold. "Enough," he told his staff. "Prepare the grand hunt. Humans have had their fun. We will show them the price." Fleet orders went out. Ships gathered from many clans. Support crews loaded fuel and weapons. Trophy halls were cleared to make room for future kills. Some smaller clans hesitated. "Is this wise?" asked a cautious leader in a private call. "We have lost ships in minor skirmishes already. Their traps grow more clever." Grax's eyes bored into the camera. "Fear," he said, "is why you have eaten well for so long. Fear is why prey lies down when we arrive. Right now that fear trembles. If we do nothing, it will fade. If we strike hard, at their heart it will flare 10 times stronger." He leaned closer. "Or are you afraid to hunt prey that stares back?" he asked. The smaller leader flushed a darker shade and snapped, "We will send ships." Pride won again. On Earth, Cheyenne systems lit up with reports. Predator fleet massing. An AI voice stated, "Vector human core, estimated strength." Unprecedented. Hannah stood beside Kincaid on the main floor as the map of the Milky Way zoomed in, focusing on the approaching threat. Red symbols flared like a spreading rash. "It's bigger than we guessed," Mia murmured at her console. "Hundreds of major hulls. Dozens of support craft. And those are just what we can see." Kincaid's face did not change much. Only a tiny muscle in his jaw jumped. "Well," he said, "we wanted them to come. They are coming." He turned to the room. "Begin phase 3, he said. "Make us small." Across human space, lights went out, not for the people, not in shelters or hospitals, but in the sky. Stations dimmed their visible beacons. Trade routes emptied as ships took side paths and hid in dust clouds. Public networks slowed, then moved to tight beam bursts and physical couriers. To a casual look, it might have seemed like Earth's civilization was stepping back a century. To the Predator scouts watching from afar, human space began to look quiet. Too quiet. Signals dropped. Traffic shrank. They smell fear. Grax's junior said, "Pleased." They hide, Grax watched the changing picture with mixed feelings. Yes, he said, but they also removed targets. No bright shipping lanes. Few moving points. He did not like Strange. But he liked the idea of retreat. It does not matter, he said. We will burn whatever's left. Even if they hide, their home world cannot vanish. Earth will shine. He did not see the thin green lines Hannah had drawn through empty, looking space. Ambush corridors, sensor webs, and quiet waiting traps. He did not know that as his fleet set out, small allied cells on a dozen worlds sent each other simple messages. Phase 3 confirmed. Eyes open. Remember Reyes? 3. On a little farm in New Mexico, a teacher showed her class a history clip of Captain Mateo Reyes speaking before the end. She did not tell them it was to prepare them for anything. On a trade station above Earthra, Vela Sorn checked her ship's hidden compartments. One more time, she was not a soldier, but her craft carried important packages, data, decoys, and a few last-minute tricks. In Cheyenne Mountain, Hannah Park put on a plain gray jacket and looked at herself in a metal panel that served as a mirror. You look tired, Mia said softly from the doorway. So does everyone, Hannah answered. That's fine. The hunters think we are soft. They think tired means weak. She walked into the main room and took her place at the strategy table. The Predator engine was still spinning on the side screen, but now it was half hidden behind a new display. A model of human space with layered defense zones and empty shells that were not as empty as they seemed. We've cracked their system enough to hurt it, she said to Kincaid. Now we see if we can crack their nerves. Kincaid nodded. And their story, he said, one way or another, when this is over, the legend of the Predators will not be what it was. Outside, the stars looked the same as they always had, calm points of light in deep dark. But for the first time in a very long time, the hunters heading toward those stars were not the only ones planning to decide who lived and who died. This time, prey had spent years watching, thinking, and setting the ground. This time, when the hunters closed in, they would find something waiting in the dark that they had never truly faced before. A galaxy that had started to learn how to hunt them back. High Hunter Grax Armada slid into human space like a storm front. Hundreds of dark hulls crossed the thin line between frontier and core. Their engines burned hard and hot, eating fuel faster than careful doctrine allowed. The need to fix the story pushed them on. On the main flagship, Grax stood before a wide display that showed human territory as his scouts believed it to be. Outer habitats, his officer said, pointing to small icons, mining outposts, trade stations. Mostly quiet, traffic lower than models predicted. Grax's brow ridges drew together. What do sensor spirits say? He asked, meaning the AIs that helped their ships see. Long-range scans show fewer power signatures than expected, the officer said. Civilian chatter down 70%, military channels, hard to read. They use tight beams, that is new, Grax said slowly. Prey does not usually go silent. It screams, It calls for help. It makes noise. The officer gave a huff. Maybe fear has frozen them. Maybe, Grax said. He looked at the symbol that marked Earth. Small, blue, and steady. Either way, we finish this, he said. We burn a path that no one can ignore. He raised his voice to the whole bridge. Spread our outer wings, he ordered. Sweep the edges. Crush any resistance. Leave no doubt. The massive fleet began to fan out. To their sensors, human space looked oddly faded. Stations that should have glowed with power showed as faint blips. Civilian ships were rare. Some asteroid mines showed as cold husks. In Cheyenne Mountain, deep under the Rockies, Dr. Hannah Park watched the same movement in reverse. On her screen, the red symbols of predator ships moved like a tide. Around and between them, her system overlaid thin green and blue traces, the locations of human traps and allied decoys. Outernet is live, Mia said, from the next console. Ambush corridors, A through F armed and waiting. All bait colonies reporting ready states. Admiral Kincaid stood with his hands behind his back, eyes on the map of Earth's region. His face was calm, but the room around him hummed with tense energy. People moved quickly, but without shouting. Remember the rules, he said to the room. We do not fight where it does not help. We do not throw ships at them just to say we did. Every move must bend their minds, not just scratch their paint. Hannah nodded. Phase 1. Make them think we've run, she said. Phase 2. Make them think they've won. Phase 3. Make them realize too late that they're the ones trapped, far from Earth. Ambush Corridor A waited. It was an empty-looking stretch of space between two small stars. To any normal fleet, it was simply a useful route, short, clear, with few big gravity wells to bend paths. But over the last year, human and allied engineers had turned it to a layered hazard. Floating in that dark were cold mines tucked into rock, sensor buoys disguised as ice, and a line of stealth drones stuck to the shadows of small asteroids. Their systems slept, running only the bare minimum to avoid detection. Now, as the first Predator scouting group entered the corridor, hidden receivers caught a preset code from far away. The traps woke. On the Predator cruiser Fang of Night, a young sensor tech frowned at the readings. "Am getting tiny reflections from starboard," she said. "Like dust with brains." "Very faint," her commander snorted. "Dust with brains, small devices," she corrected quickly. "Could be old probes. Junk. Maybe mines." Before he could answer, the minefield launched. It started with just 3 mines close enough to guarantee hits. They streaked toward the lead Predator ship on silent drives, then flared bright at the last second. Alarms screamed. The bridge shook. Panels burst. "What was that?" the commander shouted, hauling himself upright. The sensor tech whipped her head back to the display. "There's more," she said, voice high. "Many more." They were cold until her words cut off as a second wave of mines fired, this time not at the ships themselves, but at the space ahead of them, creating expanding clouds of shrapnel. On hidden stations far away, human operators watched through relayed feeds. Corridor A engaged, a voice reported into Cheyenne. 3 heavy predator ships damaged. 2 support craft gone. Survivors changing course, jumping to alternate path. Let them, Kincaid said. Just make them step where we want. As the damaged predator group pulled away, they sent clipped reports back to the main fleet. Unexpected mines. Corridor A compromised. Recommend caution on similar routes. Grax read the short message and felt a small twist in his gut. They have learned to cede space, he said. Interesting. His officer shifted. We can keep to deeper routes, he offered. Slower but safer. Grax shook his head sharply. No, he said. If we drag this out, their council might find a spine. We keep moving. Just with better scouting, double our forward screens. Have support craft probe. He leaned back. Besides, he added, more to himself than to the room, they cannot have mined every path. They had not, but they had mined enough as the armada pushed forward. More empty stretches flared to deadly life. Not all traps hit. Some mines misfired. In some corridors, the predators caught the danger early, shooting the hidden devices before they could launch. But every trap that worked taught the hunters a lesson they did not like. Space itself could lie. Grax's crews grew jumpier. Sensor techs snapped at each other. Junior hunters cursed when false alarms woke them at odd hours. Prey fights like the void. An older engineer muttered on a support ship as he patched yet another fuel line hit by shrapnel. Cold, patient. Everywhere, on human and allied worlds. Quiet cheers went up as reports came in. A farming dome on Mars paused work for 10 minutes to listen to a brief news feed. We struck their outer wings, the announcer said. Not a victory, not yet, but proof. They can be cut. Children in the dome looked at the dome's red dust fields and felt a strange mix of fear and pride in the Istanbul-style spaceport above Earthra. Velasorn listened to similar updates on a private channel while pretending to haggle over spice prices. Her eyes glinted gold. So far, so good, she murmured to Tariq later over tea. They are bleeding, just a little, along the edges, enough to itch, not enough to scare them into turning back. And Earth? Tariq asked. Getting quieter by the day, Vela said. Too quiet if you ask me. If I were a hunter, that would worry me more than the mines. On Graxic's flagship it did. His main map now showed scattered damage icons along the path they had taken. Nothing fatal, nothing that would stop the Armada, but enough to mark this prey as different. Losses so far are acceptable, his officer said, trying to sound confident. We have not lost a main hull. Loss is not just counted in steel. Grax replied, Look at our faces. He turned his head. Around the bridge, crew members' eyes were harder, their shoulders tense. They moved with small jerks instead of smooth flow. They are starting to imagine danger where there is none, he said. That is new. For them, the officer swallowed. We will make up for it at Earth, he said. One clean burn will erase these irritations. Grax stared at Earth's symbol again. It still shone steady blue. It still sat in a region that looked too calm. Send more scouts, he said, but not on straight lines. I want wide loops. I want to smell their space from many angles. Those scouts found something odd. On the edge of the solar system, near a small dwarf planet, they came across an abandoned-looking station. It's dead, the scout captain reported. Minimal power, no active weapons, just some old beacons. Mark it, came the reply from the fleet. The captain hesitated. There is something else, he said. It's broadcasting. A signal. The fleet controller snapped. The captain played a short clip. It was the predator hunt signal. The harsh grind that had frozen so many hearts on so many worlds. Only this time, it had been slowed, shifted, and laid over with something else. Human laughter. On the bridge of the flagship, several hunters' skins flushed darker with anger. They mock us, someone said. Grax's jaw clenched. His claws dug into the arm of his chair. Cut that frequency off our net, he said, and when we pass that station, burn it. He tried to make it sound casual, but something about that twisted signal scratched at him. It said, "We know your biggest scare trick. It does not work the same way here. What kind of prey plays our song back at us?" he thought. On Earth, people heard that same mocking broadcast on closed channels and smiled grimly. Phase 2 make them think they've won. Hannah reminded Kincaid as they watched the Armada cross the orbit tune. We need to let them hit a few things. Make them feel the old pattern for a moment. He nodded. Pick the targets, he said, places prepared to be hit. A small research station on the dark side of the moon, empty for months as its people moved to deeper bunkers, now lit its transmitters and pretended to be full and scared. Old recordings of human voices played. Please, we're just scientists, a woman's voice said in 20 languages. We have no weapons. We surrender. Predator scouts picked up the call. Prey on Luna. A scout captain said, excitement in his tone. An easy first blood near their home. Grax listened, then gave a short nod. Take it, he said. Make an example. Send the feed ahead to the arenas. The attack was quick. Predator landing craft knifed down to the lunar surface, kicking up gray dust. They blew the research station doors apart, rushed in, cameras ready. Inside, they found empty chairs, old instruments, and a few simple booby traps that gave them minor cuts and bruises, enough to make for decent clips, not enough to cause true loss. Ray fled. A ground leader reported, sniffing at the dust on his armor. Left toys for us. Grax watched the footage. It will do for the start, he said. Play it with a drum beat. Give the young something to shout over. The lunar station burned. From Earth's surface, a few people saw a brief, thin line of light on the moon's dark side and shivered. In Cheyenne, Hannah checked the damage list. All planned, she said softly. We lost nothing alive there. But they think they've taken a piece near our heart. Do we leak that to the galaxy? Mia asked. Let others see us fall. That seems risky. We leak part of it, Hannah said. We let word spread that the hunters reached our moon. Yes, some will feel fear. But we also leak, through back channels, the truth. That the station was empty, that we walked them into a showpiece and watched. She looked at Kincaid. If we only show our strength, smaller allies will think this fight is for big powers alone. She said, if we show our planning, they will think we can do that too. Kincaid agreed. Share the method, not just the win, he said. Always. The armada pressed closer. They passed Mars. Its surface seemed quiet. Most visible domes dimmed. Fields covered, orbital traffic sparse. In truth, families sat safe in deep shelters under rock, listening to distant reports. The few ships visible were decoys, drifting on preset paths. Grax spared the red planet a glance. Leave it, he ordered. Later, the heart. First. At last, Earth's blue-white curve filled predator screens. Even from far away, it was beautiful. Clouds curled over oceans. Night-side cities glowed faintly through the atmosphere, like clusters of fireflies. It is soft-looking, a young hunter murmured on Grax's bridge. Grax said nothing. He zoomed in, looking for the usual signs of a major world's defenses. Bright fields of power around orbitals, thick traffic lanes, warship patrols. He saw some stations, some traffic, but far less than models had predicted. It really does look like they ran, his officer said. Maybe your fear worked before we even began. No, Grax said slowly. Look again. He pointed. See that station? Its lights are normal, but its heat is low. And that one, no civilian beacons, just a single, tight pulse every few minutes. He felt something he did not like. Doubt. Prey, who run this far, do not leave their homeworld so bare, he thought, unless they want the hunters to think that. In Cheyenne, Hannah's voice came over the internal speakers. Fleet is in main trap zone, she said. Phase 3 start. All units proceed. Earth's orbit came alive. Not in bright, obvious ways. Not with huge beams or loud flares. Instead, thousands of small things happened at once. Stations that had looked half dead swung open hidden panels, revealing rail turrets that had been cooling for months. Stealth platforms that had been lying in the shadow of the moon spun out and up, their surfaces shifting from dark rock mimic to sensor-absorbing armor. Swarms of tiny drones launched from disguised containers on old-looking cargo ships. At the same time, human and allied AIs lit up the Predator network with false signals. Fake distress calls from fleeing human ships appeared on the edges of the Armada's sensors, drawing off some of their faster craft. Spoofed target markers flickered across their screens, making weapons lock on to empty points in space. On the flagship, Grax sensor techs cried out as their displays filled with clutter. Noise on all bands. One shouted. Targets multiplying and vanishing. Some readings show dozens of warships, others show none. I cannot. Grax slammed a fist into the rail beside his seat. Cut out the ghosts, he snapped. Filter for mass, not light. I don't care what they want us to see. I care what's really there. His AIs obeyed. The picture cleared, some, but not fully. Human jammers had been tuned exactly to exploit predator filtering habits. New contacts, close. Another tech yelled. From beneath the plane of Earth's orbit, a cluster of human destroyers rose on silent drives. They had hidden deep in the upper atmosphere of the planet, their heat masked by storms. Now they fired. Long, thin streaks marked kinetic shots ripping through the vacuum. They didn't aim for the thick hulls of the heaviest predator ships. They aimed for the necks, the junctions between command sections and main bodies, the sensor masts, the long gun spines. 2 predator cruisers lost their main eyes in the first volley. A third took a slug through its comms array and fell silent. On Earth, small towns watched the sky through domes and got only a hint of the fight. Faint flashes like distant lightning in daytime blue. In Cheyenne, the battle showed in brutal clarity. Hit, 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 Mia called. We have 3 blind heavies. They're not dead, but they're stumbling. Good, Kincaid said. Blind hunters swing wide. They hit friends instead of prey. And they did. In the confusion, a damaged predator ship turned to avoid what it thought was a large enemy mass. Its collision alarms screamed as it plowed into a support craft, tearing it open. Fuel vented, then ignited. On the flagship, flames flared across Grax's tactical display. He bared his teeth. Order all ships switch to tight point coordination, he said. No broad sweeps, no grand arcs. We fight in packs of 3. Each pack its own mind. It was a smart move. It cut down on friendly accidents. It made the Armada harder to trap all at once. Lessons from enemies had value too. But the change also did something else. It cut the flow of information. Pack leaders could not see the whole field as clearly. They could not sense all the traps together, which is what Hannah had planned for. Time for the second layer, she said. Turn their pride into anchors, one by one, as predator packs pushed toward what looked like weak spots in Earth's defenses. Human and allied forces gave way with care. A station would seem to lose power and drift, its guns falling silent. A group of human fighters would break and flee down a certain path. A fake breach in Earth's upper atmosphere shields would open, shining like a soft target. Predator packs chased. They followed their prey through gates that were on maps, just convenient openings. Those gates were the mouths of deeper ambush corridors. This time, not an empty space between stars, but in the complex gravity field of Earth-Moon orbit. Hidden mines fired not just from rocks, but from behind the moon's far side, from within debris clouds, from tight orbits they had been holding for months. In some places, human ships did not fight at all. They turned on bright beacons and pretended to be helpless, drawing the first wave of shots. Behind them, invisible in the static, smaller attack craft waited, engines cold. Only when the first predator volleys passed did they light up and strike from close range on Graxgrin screens. The hunt turned strange. "Yes, we are killing them," his officer said, sweat darkening the creases of his gray skin. "We have destroyed many stations, many drones." Look, indeed, kill markers lined the bottom of the display. Human and allied symbols winked out, but so did predator ones. "We are losing ships at a higher rate than model predicted," the officer said, 3 times higher, "and we still do not have clear control of the orbit." Grax watched as yet another pack pulled back from what they had thought was an easy kill, leaving 2 dead heavies and a clutter of wreckage. "Prey should run in straight lines when afraid," he said softly. "These do not. They run in curves. They pretend to fall, then bite from the side." A small part of him felt dark excitement. This was the challenge he had wanted. But a larger part, trained to keep his coalition's power alive, felt a more useful emotion now. Worry. On a smaller predator cruiser near the battle's edge, a support officer stared at their fuel readouts and did a quick set of numbers. "Sir," she said to her captain, "if we keep burning like this, we will not have enough to get home with full safety margins." "We will take fuel from the prey," he said, eyes on his gun targets. "But, sir," she said, lowering her voice, "what if there is no clean path back to the engine nodes, the traps?" "Here, enough," he snapped. "We are hunters, not traders. Do your job." She bit back a reply. In that moment, Hannah's plan touched a small, quiet victory. For the first time, some predator support crews began to think more about survival than glory. In the Istanbul-style port, above Erythra, some of Grax's allies watched live feeds he had sent out for bragging rights. They saw burning stations and flaring guns. They also saw predator ships vanish into mines, get flanked by smaller craft, and collide in confusion. Some cheered. Some frowned. "Is that wise?" a minor clan leader asked another as they watched a pack get lured between 2 lunar mass drivers and hammered from both sides. "It is brave," the other said. Rumors began to shift in that instant. Back in the thick of orbit, a thin human destroyer named UNSS Reyes, named for Mateo, darted through debris. Its captain, a woman with short hair and a tattoo of a desert mesa on her neck, kept her voice even. "Our job is not to kill the big fish," she told her crew. "Our job is to make them feel watched." We stayed just outside their reach. We mark them, tag them, poke them. The more they twist to face us, the more openings we give. Our heavy hitters. They drop sensor buoys behind predator packs, each one a tiny eye in the dark. They fired short bursts of jamming at odd angles, making predator targeting feel off even when nothing showed on radar. On Grak's flagship, small errors added up. Missiles hit a fraction off point. Gunnery AIs hesitated for half seconds, unsure if a ping was a real target or just noise. A shot that should have blown a human cruiser in half, instead only sheared its tail. Grax realized something important. They are not stronger than us, he said quietly, not in claws. They are stronger than we expected in mind. They have turned the hunt. Our packs are reacting, not leading. His officers stared at him, stunned. Are you saying we are the prey? He asked. Grax's ridges flared in anger. No, he snapped. We are not prey. We are not prey. But he stopped. He felt it then, not as a thought, but as a physical feeling. A sense that in the vast dark around his fleet, eyes watched, not gods, not ghosts, minds like his, calculating, adjusting, waiting. He thought of every trap they had hit since entering human space, every move that had seemed like a mistake by prey, then turned out to be a lure. He realized that, in dozens of human war rooms, people and AIs were charting his choices, learning his habits in real time, the way he had always done to others. The hunter felt hunted on Earth. Hannah watched the red symbols of the Predator fleet. They were no longer a smooth arc. They were ragged with gaps where ships had died or pulled back. Some packs were out of position. Some had slowed, not following their orders as quickly. They're hesitating, Mia said. Look. This pack here had a clear path to a major orbital. Now they're circling instead. Uncertain, that's fear, Hannah said quietly. Not open, not like prey, panic, but fear all the same. Now comes the hard part, he said. We could push, try to wipe them. But if we go too hard, too fast, we risk turning this into a slaughter that makes us into their mirror. He looked at Hannah. What do we want this battle to say? To the galaxy? To them? To ourselves? Hannah did not answer right away. She thought of Reyes. 3. Of quiet frontier worlds that had never gotten the chance to choose. Of small species on the council, heads bowed as talks rolled on above them. She thought of Grax on his bridge, suddenly aware that the dark around him held sharp eyes. We wanted to say, "You are not gods," she said. We wanted to say, "If you come to hunt, you will be hurt, but if you leave, if you step back, there is another way." She brought up an option she had designed in long, tired nights on the map. She highlighted a line of retreat, a narrow corridor that led away from Earth, past a few small systems back toward Predator space. It was not safe. It was seeded with mild traps and eyes. But it was open. We loosen our grip here. She said, we let those who want to flee see a chance. We keep hitting those who push in. We do not try to kill them all. We show we could chase, then choose not to. Mia stared. Are you sure? She asked. We might never get another chance to hit this many. Hannah nodded, face tight. If we wipe them out, their story doesn't die, she said. It changes. It becomes never trust prey. They slaughter without mercy. We were right to hit them first, she swallowed. If we hurt them badly, make them stumble, but leave a path, a new story can grow, she said. A story that says, when we tried to stop hunting, they did not chase us to the last ship. Some of them may ignore that. Some might not. Kincaid looked at her for a long moment. You're asking for restraint in the face of people who have burned worlds, he said. I am, she said, because I don't only want to win a battle. I want to change the shape of fear in this galaxy. Silence fell around them. Then Kincaid gave a small, firm nod. Do it, he said. Open the corridor. Mark it clearly in our own systems. If they take it, we let them go for now. In orbit, human guns shifted. Shots that would have closed off the predator's back path instead. Targeted side packs, pushing them away from the corridor and toward tighter pockets of fire. Jamming focused on those still driving hard at Earth, not those that had begun to drift outward. On Grak's flagship, his navigation officer spoke up. New gap on our rear left, she said. Less interference, fewer attacks. We could pull some packs out through there if needed. Grax felt his pride scream, retreat from prey. But he also saw the numbers, ship losses climbing, fuel results dropping. The sharp, smart way the humans had shaped the fight. He thought of his people back in the arenas, of the young who had only ever seen easy hunts, of the doubt that would grow if he threw away half their strength here. If we die to prove we are brave, he thought, what use is that to anyone but our ghosts? He made a choice that no predator of his rank had made in centuries. Signal to all packs, he said. Voice like stone. Those pinned too deep to break free will continue as they wish. Those on the outer rings are to pull back through that gap. We will not waste our engine on the altar of pride. His officer stared. High Hunter, he began. Grax turned his head slowly. Do you question my will? He asked. The officer's throat bobbed. No, he said quickly. Orders sent. Across the battle, some predator packs cursed as they realized they were being told to turn and run. Others did not need telling. They had already begun to ease away, recording their own excuses. Human and allied crews watched, stunned, as parts of the armada peeled off. They're leaving, Mia said. At least some of them. Hannah kept her tone steady. Do not chase, she said. Mark every ship. Tag every route. Give them a hard time on the way out, but no final killing blow unless they try to turn back. Some commanders on both sides ignored orders. A human captain whose sister had died on an anomaly station took her ship a little too far into the retreating corridor and almost paid with her life. A predator pack leader, burning with shame, turned back toward Earth into fire. and was cut apart by coordinated fire. War was never clean. But the main pattern held. Grak's flagship backed out of Earth's orbit under constant smart pressure. Human and allied ships nipped at its flanks, targeting sensors and comms, never quite striking the core. Grak stood at his display and watched as the blue curve of Earth shrank. He knew how this would look to some back home. A failure, a cracked hunt, a half-finished story. He also knew something else hard and clear. If we had stayed, they would have broken us, he thought. They have laid their space like a net. We walked into the center and felt the threads. He forced himself to admit it, at least here in his own mind. For the first time, we were not the only ones hunting. On Earth, sirens wound down. The bright flashes in the sky lessened. Stations stopped shaking. In deep shelters under cities and farms, people listened as calm voices came onto the speakers. Main predator force is pulling away, an announcer said. Repeat. The largest known hunting fleet is in retreat. We are hurt, but we held. Some laughed, some just sat down where they were and breathed. In New Mexico, a child whose grandparents had come from Reyes. 3 looked up at the clear blue sky and felt a tightness inside ease for the first time he could remember. In the Galactic Council Hall, news of the battle broke through the thick wall of polite silence. Delegates stared at live feeds, predator ships limping away, human and allied vessels moving with tired but firm control. Whispered stories that had once been banned now turned real and public. A council member from a small, often ignored world stood up without waiting for permission. I move, she said loudly, that the council formally name the predator threat and condemn their hunts. Gasps went around the hall. An older delegate began to sputter about procedure and avoidance of panic, but he stopped when he saw the faces around him. They were not panicked, they were angry. And for the first time, some of them were hopeful. Back in Cheyenne, Hannah slept for 10 hours straight, deeper than she had in years. When she woke, she watched replays of the battle, not the exciting parts for feeds, but the small ones. A human crew choosing not to fire on a fleeing ship. An allied cell sending evacuation shuttles to a nearly hit station. A predator support officer quietly redirecting extra fuel to help a wounded sister ship escape. Grax, back in his arena days later, faced his people. The hall was full again, but the mood was different. Less smug, more cautious. He played them a cut of the battle feeds. It showed predator ships burning Earth stations and human traps biting deep. It showed both sides dead. Then, near the end, he let a short, raw segment run. In it, his own voice gave the order to retreat through the corridor. Murmurs rose in the hall. Grax lifted a heavy-clawed hand, and the sound died. You see this, and some of you feel shame, he said. Good. Shame means you still care about our strength, but listen to what that choice protected. He brought up a map of their hunting engine, fuel nodes, arenas, support worlds. If we had died there, he said, this whole net would have torn. Not for a glorious last charge, but for stupid pride. Your dens, your hatchlings, your old, all that we built on fear would have broken into scraps for scavengers. He stared at them. We have met prey that can hunt, he said. We can pretend that is not true and die clean, or we can accept it and change. Some shifted in anger. Others looked down, thinking. Spite. Spite. I will not stop hunting, Grax said. I am what I am, but I will choose my hunts with more care. The time of easy runs is done. The time of burning whole species to feed a story is over. Any who refuse this, any who tried to drag us back into blind slaughter, will not find me at their side. It was not mercy. It was not a promise of peace, but it was a crack. In a quiet room on Earth, Hannah read an intercepted translation of that speech. Shaky but clear enough, so he learned something. Mia said. Hannah nodded. Fear moved, she said, off us a little, onto him. Onto what happens if they keep playing the old game. She looked out the window at a world that was both the same and not. Birds still flew. So flew. Cars still moved. Kids still argued about things that had nothing to do with space. But above, in orbit, new sensors watched the dark more closely. On small worlds in far arms, little cells trained in trap building, in council halls, some old rules about silence lay broken on the floor. Do you think it's over? Mia asked softly. Hannah shook her head. No, she said. There will be more fights. Some predators will want revenge. Some of our own will want to hit first. Fear will keep shifting. She smiled a little, tired but real. But it won't be like before, she said. Before fear flowed one way, from us to them. Now it moves in more directions. Now when someone hears that harsh hunt signal in the dark, they won't only think, we are doomed. Some will think, we can set a trap like Earth did. She picked up a tablet and opened a file titled Lessons from Earth Defense. Inside were simple rules, written in plain language, with diagrams anyone with basic tech could follow. Bait, colonies, sensor tricks, ways to share data across species. She sent it in small pieces along thousands of routes, through Velaz trade web, through council channels, through backroom networks. On a water world across the galaxy, a young engineer read a section about hiding ships in storms and smiled. On a gas giant station, a teacher showed students an animated clip of a hunter ship caught in its own pride. Vela, in her ship above Erythra, received her copy and laughed softly. Look at this, she told Tariq. A manual on how to scare the monsters. Tariq raised his tea. To hunted hunters, he said. Vela clinked her cup against his. To choice, she added, not fate. In a field in New Mexico, under a big open sky, a monument was built. It was simple, a tall, curved wall of stone with names cut into it, from many worlds, At the top, in big letters, a line from Captain Mateo Reyes' last speech. Their legend breaks here. Below it, someone had added another line, scratched in by hand, and so does our fear. School groups came to visit. Guides told them about Reyes. 3. About Cheyenne, about the day the sky fought back. They did not just talk about heroes. They talked about plans, about how being brave did not just mean charging. Sometimes it meant waiting, watching, thinking hard about what kind of person, what kind of people you wanted to be in the middle of fear. As years passed, stories about the predators changed shape. They were still told in crowded rooms and around campfires on distant worlds. But now, they were not just warnings, they were lessons. Remember, parents told their kids, even the strongest hunter can be surprised. Even the loudest myth can crack. You are never only prey unless you decide to be. Some predators kept hunting. Some pulled back. A few very quietly slipped away from their old life, looking for the safe havens Hannah had left room for. Not all were found. Not all were welcomed. But the path existed. The galaxy did not become peaceful overnight. It did not become fair. But in the great dark between stars, something important had shifted. Once, there had been a simple rule. Some were hunters, some were prey. That was just how the universe worked. Now, thanks to a tense desert colony, a tired scientist under a mountain, a careful admiral, a sharp-eyed trader, and many others, that rule sat broken beside old myths. Predator and prey were no longer fixed roles. They were choices, strategies, stories that could be told, changed, and told again. And as long as there were minds willing to question fear instead of bow to it, as long as there were people ready to watch the dark with both courage and care, no hunt, no matter how legendary, would ever again belong to the hunters alone.